26 Palestinian prisoners have begun to be released as part of a deal between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas, just ahead of renewed peace talks. Now, Saeb Erekat, who's the chief Palestinian negotiator, told CNN that this move came as a surprise.
So why would the Israeli government now send a message that we insist on undermining, preempting, prejudging the results of negotiations before we begin? They're really shouting and screaming at us, we will dictate and not negotiate. And I think if they are doing this in order to make me unable to go to the negotiating table, I think they will succeed. If the Israeli government is determined to continue such announcements, so I'm unable to go and negotiate under my public opinion, they're about to succeed. And if that's the end game, if that's their play game, that to say that we will do settlements and they just come to the negotiation, if they don't come to the negotiation, we can't blame them. I think if this is the silly game they're playing, they are undermining and destroying the prospects of the two-state solution.
So the thing is that, this move also comes just as Israel announced that it would continue to build 900 settlements in East Jerusalem, despite Palestinian opposition. But on Monday night, Abbas agreed to drop a full freeze of settlement expansion from his list of demands ahead of any peace negotiations. Now, Sabrina, clearly the road ahead is still far from smooth sailing. But are there any doubts that Wednesday's peace talks will actually take place?
No, there don't appear to be any doubts that the peace talks themselves would take place. There's always going to be a buildup and sort of resentment from each side on whether or not preconditions are being met or how those terms are being met or not met. But the reality is that the deal that Secretary Kerry had brokered was that Israel would release 104 Palestinian prisoners. So this is the first batch that you mentioned just at the top of that there. And then the other part was that Palestine would drop its opposition to the settlement, the settlement issue, where, of course, the Palestinian position is that this settlement on behalf of Israel is in territory that they consider part of a future Palestinian state. Now the U.S. position, for what it's worth, is that where Israel is actually moving forward with this with its settlement, that isn't actually. I guess I don't know the exact word that they use, but they certainly agree with the Palestinians that that's not actually an appropriate territory for Israel to be developing and expanding its own settlement projects. As they said, illegitimate. That was the word that used. But the reality was it was part of the preconditions for Palestinians to negotiators to just allow it to proceed for the time being. And it will be, I think, a heated as expected and very complicated road ahead. It's very the relationship has been almost non-existent, as everyone knows, since 2008. Extremely fragile, and this is kind of just a precursor, I think, a preview of what's to come. And it doesn't look like either side might be willing to make major concessions, at least at this point. Although the prisoners' release is certainly seen as a big deal to many on both sides of both to people in Israel who are opposed, whose families feel that whose families lost loved ones at the hands of those prisoners, and then of course the prisoners saying that and their families, the Palestinians, saying that they were justified in their acts given the conditions and the war that was underway at the time. Now. Again, I just think that it's going to be incredibly complicated, and we're just kind of seeing an initial preview. But the talks will at least begin on Wednesday, and it remains to be seen, I think, what role especially Secretary Kerry is going to play since he's made this issue, Israel and Palestine, getting them back to the negotiating table, his primary area of focus as Secretary of State and one of his major goals in terms of what he wants to accomplish.
Yeah, and I got a tweet here from BBC News. Just talking about how big of a deal the prisoner aspect is of it. Hundreds of Palestinians gathered at the Erez crossing in North Gaza to receive 15 prisoners freed by Israel. And then, of course, I have to bring it up because you sent it to me earlier. But, it's the Middle East peace just seems like this elusive thing where there are so many complications, and to the point where, at times you just almost have to be satirical about it. And The Onion certainly knows how to do that well. And so their latest is Israel builds new settlement to host Palestinian peace talks, because it seems like anytime you make one step, then there's a new round of settlements and another thing that seems like it takes it a few steps back.